Hi, everyone. Today, I want to practice answering tough questions. Questions you may not have ever thought about before, or on topics you've never even practiced speaking about before. This lesson will be really good if you are aiming to score a 7 or a 6 in fluency and coherence. So at a 7, it says you, especially for speaking, it says you speak at length without noticeable effort. And at a 6, they use a key phrase, willing to speak at length. This is important because that means you try, even though the question is difficult, you try to continue talking and explain your ideas. So, for fluency and coherence, this lesson will be important for you. Let's go ahead and jump in. So, first, what to do. Number one, say you don't know. When you have a question that is really tough, so, well, say you have no idea. You don't have experience doing it. It's not something you've thought about before. The next part is you need to explain why. So, it's okay if you don't know. The examiner is not there. The examiner is not there to measure your life experience or how much you know about the world. The examiner is there to measure your speaking ability. So if you don't know, you don't have any ideas, say you don't know, you don't have any ideas. Explain why. Maybe you haven't done that before. Maybe you haven't thought about it. Maybe growing up that this type of thing wasn't available for your area. And third and finally, talk about the topic in some way. Remember on this band descriptor at a 6, it says willing to speak at length. That's where this comes in. So these type of questions, these difficult questions you will see in part 3 of the speaking test. This is an excellent opportunity to show the examiner that you are willing to speak at length, or even better, you can speak at length without noticeable effort. Now, what should we say? Well, first great phrase is, to be honest, I really don't know. Sometimes the examiners are going to ask tough questions just to see if you can talk about them. Remember, the examiner isn't there to measure your life experience or your world knowledge. They are there to measure your speaking ability. So it's not going to lose any points. Say, I don't know. When someone asks me in English a really tough question, I might say something like, I'm really not sure about that because I haven't done that before, or because I've never read anything about that or know anything about that. Third great speaking phrase you can use is, I don't normally do blank. We'll see this come up in a question later that it's a good use. Fourth is, I've never thought about this before. Especially some of these questions we'll see. I think the last question, this is going to be a key phrase where it's a hard question. And it's just best saying, I've never thought about this before. Lastly, and most commonly, that's a tough question because it's my pronunciation when I say that. It's a tough question. All of these try to show good pronunciation. The one above that, I've never thought about this before. I've never thought about this before. But I guess the one above that, I don't normally do that. I don't normally do this type of thing. Notice my intonation. I don't normally do this type of thing. The second one from the top, I'm not really sure about that because it's the pausing, the rhythm. My speech changes as I say this. This was a great chance to practice good pronunciation. Last one, to be honest, I don't know. notice that pause? To be honest, I don't know. All right, let's go ahead and do our first practice question. Okay. Practice question 1 is, how do people in your country feel about art? If you want to go and practice using these phrases first, pause the video. I'm going to give a sample answer. So, I'm not really sure about that because I'm not big into art. I like a nice painting and a beautiful song and a nice statue as much as anyone else, but I'm not a huge art fanatic. And people in my area where I'm from, I guess art isn't widely expressed. We have some plays, but very few. We have a museum in my hometown, but it's a historical museum of the state. So I guess art just isn't a big deal in my hometown, and I'm not big into art myself, so I really don't know how people feel about it. Did you notice as I gave my answer, I used some pausing at the beginning, especially when I said, to be honest, I really don't know. Try to show some pronunciation in there. Also, I explain why. So after I say I don't know, I say why I don't know. First, I'm not big into art myself. Second, art isn't big in my hometown. And then I still talk about it. I explain, well, we do have a museum. We have some small plays, but they're not common. Okay, so we have another easy question. If you've done sports, if you have done sports, change the word sports to some type of competition you haven't done, like an art competition or a music competition. Um, so for me, this is a tough question because while I do love sports, I don't really like team competitive sports. Um, I tend to like to do solo individual sports like running, cycling, snowshoeing, but I don't like doing a competitive sports, even competitive running, because I find the enjoyment of the sport is just doing the sport. It's not in the competition. To me, the competition takes away the fun. So I can't talk about a competition I've done. I know my mom, she's big into running, or she was. She's a big swimmer now. And both in running and swimming, she has gone to several competitions and matches. She's ran quite a few half marathons, and she still goes to master swimming competitions, and she does fairly well. But personally, I've never done a sports competition. Notice in that answer, again, first thing I say, I don't know. The first thing I say is, I just don't have any idea. And then I explain why. Because, yes, I do like sports, but I really don't like the competitive sports. I like individual solo sports. And then I still try talking about it. So I tell you about my mom and how she has done sports competitions. So she's done some half marathons, and some swimming competitions. Remember, you don't have to talk forever when you explain it to a sufficient degree, to an acceptable amount. Move on. Speaking of moving on, let's move on to the next question. Okay, so our third question is a little harder, and it says, who should pay for scientific research? Private governments, or I'm sorry, governments or private companies? Well, it's a tough question because I've never really thought about this type of thing. My initial thought is governments should be responsible for scientific research. But on the other hand, I'm a lot of research has come from private companies. Like the COVID vaccines were both, some of them were both private company and government sponsored. So my answer, not really having thought about it before, would be I think both. Notice in that question, I really don't have any idea. I tell you I don't, and then I kind of think about it and explain my thoughts as I'm thinking about it. I have to remain focused and stay on topic, governments or private companies, and I have to kind of come to a decision. But I explain my thoughts. Well, oh yeah, you do see some good things from private companies. You know, and governments also, I guess both. I explain why by saying, I've never really thought about this before, which is a perfectly acceptable reason for why you don't know. Let's move on to number 4. So, this next question may seem easy, but if you don't have any experience on this type of thing, it's a hard question. One of my students wasn't able to answer this question because they didn't have any experience, and their answer that they gave me using these phrases was so good. I'm going to give you a similar answer that they gave me. The question is, what are the different advantages of going to the sea or to a swimming pool to enjoy yourself? What do you think the disadvantages are? So my student said, oof, well, to be honest, I don't normally go to swimming pools or the sea because, well, I don't know how to swim. I know that may seem strange because I'm an adult, but growing up, my parents never took me to swim lessons, and there weren't any pools in my neighborhood, and I live in a big city far from the ocean, so I've just never learned, and as such, I don't go to the ocean or to pools. I guess from from what I've seen online and videos and social media, I guess the advantage would be it looks very relaxing and you could have fun with your friends. Disadvantage, I think, would be you get sunburn and you're exposed to the sun. Notice this is the type of question where I don't normally do, or you, in this case, you might want to say I can't swim. It's perfect. If you can't answer this question because you haven't done something or can't do something, say that, then explain it. And notice my students still tried to answer the question by, well, speculating, guessing about the advantages or disadvantages. Oh, from social media, it looks relaxing. That's simple. That's great. Disadvantages, sunburn. Another great answer. Let's go on to the final and, in my opinion, the hardest question we'll see today. Okay, our last question is a hard question. This comes from a part 3 speaking question on a practice test, and it says, have there been any changes in the number of jobs available in fishing and water transport industries? Why do you think that is? Oof. Well, it's a tough question because I don't have much of anything to do with fishing or water transport industries. I'm an English teacher and I live in a big city far from the ocean. But that being said, my immediate thought would be that these jobs have increased. It seems like industries in all parts of the economy have increased or grown larger, and I don't see why fishing or water transport wouldn't be, especially when there's been an increase in trade between countries such as China and Western countries where you would need water transport to ship those goods. Um, And I guess with an increasing population, there would be more demand for food and thus more fishers, fishermen, fisherwomen. So I guess my 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 guess would be there have been more of these jobs, and it's a result of trade and increasing demand for food. Notice in my answer, I don't know. I really don't know. I say, why? I don't know. Number two, I explain. I'm a English teacher and I live in a big city, so therefore I don't have anything to do with these industries. But I still talk about it. And as I'm talking about it, I'm starting to think of ideas. So you may find that as you go through these difficult questions, you start coming up with ideas as you speak about why you don't know. So as I'm talking about fishing, I'm thinking, well, there's more fishers probably. Why is that? Well, maybe there's more people and there's need for food. Well, I guess there'd be more water transport. Well, shipping. You have to ship goods. Well, yeah, trade between China and Western countries where they have to use big shipping containers. So again, these types of questions, they are hard, but they are excellent opportunities to show a willingness to speak at length and that you can speak at length without difficulty. It's also really important to remember to focus on your coherence in these questions because it's easy to, well, ramble about unrelated stuff or to lose focus and for your message to become incoherent or not understandable. So, I hope you found this helpful. You can download a free copy of all these tips and more speaking questions down below. Follow the link. And I hope you guys have a great one. Keep practicing. I'll see you later. Bye bye.